the proposal for the new building, I mean, we have a 3D rendering, and the heights and everything, it pretty looks, if you look at my house and their house, it looks not too much higher, but the reality is it's a lot higher. So, and because of that height, we've got some additional, buildup in the back. When that foundation was dug out, obviously it's a bigger hole than the original house footprint, and I didn't see any of that dirt being taken off-site. So it basically stayed on-site and kind of got smoothed out and making the elevation go up. So what I'd like to submit to the council is basically my pictures and basically a timeline of what happened this week as far as the flooding and the stop works and all the other commotion that occurred.
Mr. Lewandowski, thank you very much. We appreciate your concerns. I'm going to direct you to our village manager.
Okay.
Darwin can kind of help you out. Well, sounds like they're sending some audio in here.
They're broadcasting a township meeting here.
So whoever's handling the cable casting, if you could lose the audio in here would be great.
Mr. Chairman, if I can try to talk over that audio.
Please.
I have had conversations with Catherine earlier today, and I've been in touch with the county or the township building official. There are two issues here, as Mr. Lewandowski had pointed out. The first is the Water Resources Commission, who issues the permits for the soil erosion and sedimentation control, had erroneously issued an exemption certificate to the builder last September, I believe. When they were reviewing that application, they were looking at an address for 146 Bellevue in the city of Clawson. And so they issued an exemption certificate based on that. That was an error. My understanding is that the Water Resources Commission has revoked that, permit. They are in the process of reviewing that and determining what additional requirements are going to be necessary for proper soil erosion and sedimentation control. I also talked to the building official about the building, the construction itself, what review the building department does, and the building official assured me that the building department does review the grading of the property when someone's constructing a home to make sure that the final project retains any stormwater on that property and does not allow it to migrate onto surrounding properties. And Mr. Goodlow is very well aware of your issue. I know that you've had communications with him as well. He is monitoring this very closely. So between those two agencies, they're coordinating together with our code enforcement department, our code enforcement division, to try to address this problem as quickly as we possibly can.
Okay, all right, I appreciate it. Can I
But
submit
thank
my
you, and we appreciate your frustration and your concerns, and we take them very seriously.
Well, I mean, we're all trying to protect our properties here and make them, build them up. I mean, so, can I submit these to you then, this information?
Sure.
Actually, probably to the clerk.
Yeah.
All right.
But thank you so much, and Jason, it's so nice meeting you. I wish it was under different circumstances.
Thank you.
Catherine and I go way back, I think, to elementary school.
That's
So,
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to item number 7, any old business. Don't believe there is any. Move on to item 8, new business. Item A is the Flint Lake Street parcel reconfiguration. Do we have a plan from McKenna?
No formal report as far as planning goes, but we did consult with the village engineers to do a thorough review of this proposed split and recombination. They've been going back and forth with Mosherry's engineer. We've been all very privy to the details and the nuances. And the result has been that our engineer has recommended approval for this split. These lots are interesting because the resulting parcels are smaller than what is typically allowed through our zoning ordinance, which is a 7,000 square foot minimum. And at least one, and I think two of these are below that. But there's a provision in the land division ordinance that says the planning commission can allow lots less than 7,000 square feet, provided that they are no lower than 5,000 square feet and that they relate to existing underlying plat, which, as you can see, there's 4 lots here from an original plat shown in the survey. The new line for the split falls right over that existing lot line. So as far as planning and zoning goes, we find this to be in compliance, and our engineers agree.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any discussion?
Just a question. I've been watching construction, development, redevelopment for a lot of years in the village, and we've got, many times it starts out as non-conforming parcels, or we'll have a non-conforming lot, and that structure will be torn down, and then that's picked up by other, kind of like what we have here. Would you say this would be fairly consistent adjustments made here that would be similar to other developments?
It's typical, especially in this village and a lot of lakeside properties, to have these smaller lots that were often, existing before the ordinance. And it's interesting, the provision that allows you to approve these smaller splits, they are specifically exempt from lot coverage and lot width zoning requirements. They still have to comply with setbacks, but they are exempt from the lot coverage and the lot width, because I believe both of these meet the lot width minimum, but certainly lot coverage, you're going to see a larger percentage of that lot covered by structures in the future, potentially, but they are specifically exempt from that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion so that we can have further discussion, if that's okay. I'd like to I make a motion to recommend to the Village Council that the application from Starboard Orion LLC dated March 30th, 2023 for the reconfiguration of parcel numbers 09-02-457-011 and 09-02-457-010 to parcels A, B, and C as shown in the Giffords-Webster Certificate of Survey as revised on June 30th, 2023, be approved with the conditions outlined in the village engineer's letter dated May 22nd, 2023.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported, so any further discussion?
Is it unreasonable to ask the motivation to divide the parcels like this? We started off with 2, the original plan, I have a copy of it, it shows 4. And so we want to go, it looks like we want to leave the one alone, but we're going to divide the other one. The way we've divided the other one, we're like 2.5 inches short of the 60 feet. So we could have gotten that to 60 feet width. And I think the significance of that is, if I read this correctly, if we get below or between 50 and 60 feet, there are provisions to reduce the side setbacks. So if it were 60 feet, the setbacks would be larger. So I guess when I look at this, I see inconsistencies from the standpoint of we're keeping one lot large, we're dividing the other one. The way we've divided it gets it, like I said, about less than 2.5 inches short of that 60-foot width. We're going below the 7,200, but just above the absolute minimum of 5,000. So I'm just curious what the motivation, do we know what the buildings are going to look like, and is it the buildings that are driving that? What's the driving force here?
Good evening, gentlemen. Dominic Mosheri. Yeah, just a quick history of that area. Back about a year ago, we were proposing with the PUD multifamily units to be there. I think there was about 6 that were supposed to be located on that property. Since then, we rescinded the PUD application, and then this is going to be single-family homes. 189 Flint Street, which is the furthest to the west, was originally 2 parcels. He then went to the county to do a combination, so that way he was only paying 1 tax bill. Since then, we have purchased that home and decided that, you know what, instead of doing the multifamily units there, we're gonna do 2 single-family homes on the new splits as shown. So that's the reasoning behind the split as proposed. 2 single-family homes for sale, not 6 units for lease.
Okay, so if they're going to be 6 or single-family homes, I had spoken with the engineer this morning, and she sent me the review 1. So the review 2, you know, talked about meeting the provisions of certain bullets and then not meeting the provisions of other bullets. When I look at those, she calls out in review 1 that the buildable area as proposed is going to be very tight to make, you know, to put a residence on there. So when I'm thinking about what might happen down the road, will we be back here in some number of months talking about asking for variances for setbacks?
No. There's just be small lake cottages. Doesn't need to be anything astronomically large. We're not gonna, the right thing that we're proposing in the village that we decided in-house is gonna be used by right. We're not asking for any variances, we're not asking for any special treatment. Everything that you see is what you get.
So if we approve this and the village council approves this, you're saying that there won't be a request for variances?
That's correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Lamb?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Mr. Mosheri.
You all set? You have questions for me?
Yeah, I had the same question. I'm going to phrase it a little differently, though. I looked at the splits at home, and the westernmost parcel, you know, it's 60 feet wide nominally by 100 feet deep, or 126 feet deep average. So that one is, will build anything, you know, village property-wise. The next lot, the property line's 59 on the one side and 100 on the other side. Gives you an average depth of 75 feet, and it's got 63 feet of frontage. You know, I think the minimum setbacks are 25 feet front and rear, correct?
In MU, I'd have to double check, but,
So is this?
MU side yard setbacks are 0.
yeah.
Okay, so this is, that was my second question. Where is the zoning line on these
So
parcels?
the zoning is actually, the eastern parcel is MU, so that residence is gonna have a mixed-use component to it.
Okay,
When it is proposed, the middle lot is just gonna be a straight single-family home.
okay, so that's what I was getting at, is just at the brief overview that our planning consultant gave us, it looked like if this was reviewed under strictly RV or R standards, these would be unbuildable. But under the MU, with the 0 setbacks, with the 25-foot front setback, or what is, what are
don't
the
remember.
setbacks for the MU?
I believe the front yard setback is based on the average of everything there. Dominic would know better how
Yeah,
that works.
just wanted to add that in there. Yeah, so on the parcel that's going to be residential, it's an average of there. And actually, most architects might have a challenge with that lot, but I have an idea that's going to work really well. So we're very comfortable with it. We don't need any more variances or anything, so we'll meet all the setbacks that we need to have for the city.
So on the smallest parcel, the one easterly parcel, you have zero rear yard setback required?
No, it's 25 foot on the residential, and then an average of the front.
For MU?
I'm talking about the one that would be the westerly one.
I'm talking about the eastern one.
Yeah, the eastern one, the MU, is basically going to be 10-foot front yard and then 0 side yards on it.
Okay, so it's
For the MU parcel, the western property line, since that's abuts residential, it is
that's
a
right.
20-foot setback, I believe. So that, of the MU parcel, the western property line has a 20-foot side yard setback, and it has a 10-yard setback from Flint Street, and a 10-foot setback from Lake Street, and then a 0 side yard setback.
May I
on the
approach
eastern
the bench,
property line.
please?
What's that?
Can you show him?
Yep, yep.
You can actually write it on there if you want to, these little tiny drawings we get. And,
So I believe this is 20 feet
20 from
here.
residential.
okay,
This is 10,
done, okay, from the front, okay,
this is 10,
okay.
and then this is 0.
Okay, that explains, okay, and then this parcel here is, which zoning is it currently?
So this is,
Residential.
Okay, that one's okay.
that's the village, so this is
Okay.
the average. This is 25
25.
feet. This is 10 feet, I believe,
Yeah,
10 feet.
10 feet.
Okay, so that was my question was,
Yeah, I,
It had to do with the setbacks, and the MU parcels is buildable under those standards.
Which one is, this is the MU?
Yes, and so it's got, it'd be these zeros, very tiny setbacks. These people have always presented stuff properly, so that was what I thought was unbuildable, is buildable, that was very buildable, that means it'll be buildable.
because we were, our concern with that house was there. So,
No, we got you.
we're good.
Thank you.
So based on your explanation, the parcels are buildable then, under the zone? Wasn't, okay, thank you. I appreciate you clarifying the zoning classification. Now it's obvious what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Are you good with that?
I'm good with that.
Is there any other further discussion? All right, so there is a motion, it's been approved, or seconded. I'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. So we'll move on to new business 8B. It's the Mystic Cove parcel reconfiguration.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend to the Village Council that the application from Mystic Cove Orion LLC dated April 24th, 2023, for the combination of parcel numbers 09-11-277-048, 09-11-277-013, engage, correct me if I'm wrong on these as I'm doing these, 09-11-277-041, part of 09-11-277-018, part of 09-11-277-035, part of 09-11-277-028, 09-11-255-002, 09-11-403-009, 09-11-403-008, and 09-11-403-007, to the combined parcel shown on Giffords Webster Certificate of Survey revised June 26, 2023, be approved as presented. Did I
Support.
get the parcel numbers all correct? Okay.
Support.
Yeah. Support, Commissioner Narr supports. Okay, Commissioners, any discussion on this?
Just one quick question can I ask the engineer a question? Because somebody else asked me a question. So I notice on the surveys that you show the bottom lands. So are those the lands that are owned by the adjoining parcel that is on the shore?
So the bottom lands that are in the parcels -048, 013, and 035 were owned by those adjacent property owners. The bottom lands next to 028, 009, 008, and 007, those were done with a quick claim deed about a year ago. So they've been owned by Mosheri for about a year or so.
So
Those were from a separate parcel.
Okay, so the bottom lands were purchased separately. Were they split from that parcel?
Yeah.
It was all done with a split
Yep.
company. And the purpose of the bottom lands is because there's some calculation that allows density or zoning?
Nope,
Don't
nope,
use-
those bottom lands are not platted, so those were not included in any of the density calculations. Those were just strictly, that's where the docks are gonna be located, and they wanted to own the bottom lands where the docks were.
Nice. Okay, thank you so much. That explains the whole bottom land question. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So just to clarify, the bottom was not used in the density calculation? Because when I looked back at some previous site plans, and I think it quoted 4.49 acres or somewhere in that neighborhood, and number of residences allowed and whatnot, and I think those bottom lands are included.
Not all of them, just the ones on the north side of the Heights Road Broadway piece, those are platted bottomlands. So those ones were included, we broke down the calculations to show which ones were platted and included, and we subtracted the ones that were not platted from our density calculations.
So a more general question that I would have from a density standpoint, that's outlined in the ordinances, I assume, right? So in the spirit of the ordinance, why would you include non-land? You know, if I think about the spirit versus the letter, you know, it seems a little odd to me from a spirit standpoint that would be included in any calculation.
I think with, you know, with these bottom lands and having a previous plat, having been recorded, a lot of that goes back to, you know, what are they going to be using it for, and when did they get their site plan approval, which was prior to the final splits being approved, at least for the initial site plan review. So it's my understanding that these density requirements might include some of the bottom lands, at least for this larger northern site. But as far as our planning, our planning review letters from McKenna, I didn't find any discrepancy or issue in allowing that density to be calculated as such. I will follow up with Laura Haw. She's the one who performed that review initially, so I can definitely follow up on that. But being by a lake, you do get some intricacies and unique land considerations. So I would permit some flexibility, but you know, if more concrete information is needed from me, I can research that.
No, and that was we had that whole discussion at site planning. It's something, the way the ordinance is written, they allow density to be used if it's a platted bottom land. If the bottom land is not platted, it's not allowed in the calculations. It's just one of their rules.
Did, I have one more question about is this a bottom land conveyance a public record? Is that it's
Yep,
ownership
it's
and
recorded.
stuff? And there weren't any conveyances from parcel 911403006? Of the bottom land parcels? That's the most western adjoining property,
No.
so no conveyances from that property? Okay. That's all the questions I have, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any further discussion?
Just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, is parcel number 09-11-255-002 supposed to be part of the combination? Because when I look at the survey, it looks like that's part of the bottomland of Lake Orion itself. I just want to make sure we're not including parcel numbers we shouldn't be in this combination.
Is that parcel 0911?
Well, 002.
That is included,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is included?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Then the motion was correct then.
Okay. Again, any further discussion? Ready for a vote? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? And motion carries. All right. Thank you very much. Good seeing you.
I just actually wanted to thank the Mosheri crew, Mr. Mosheri, for not just taking it out of the PUD process, but listening to everyone in this process along the way, and then adjusting what you're doing out there to accommodate that. I think that's pretty cool. And take from, as you had mentioned, 6 units down to a single, that's going to look better. I'm sure that the neighbors in that area are going to like single family. Obviously, the ROI would have been in a different direction, benefiting you. But I think it should be noted that you guys did that to accommodate not only the village, but people around it, and kudos.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you recognizing our efforts, and we're obviously here to stay, and we're excited to be part of the community. So thank you again. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to item 9, Commissioners' comments. Mike, you want to start?
Sure. I'm so happy to see that the Flint Street's going to, maintain a residential character. Those people were awfully upset, and it's my neighborhood too, so I'm happy that there'll be some continuity for them. I was saddened to hear during the public comment period that once again, another resident's being misled, hoping that their grading and drainage problems will somehow be resolved by the Village of Lake Orion. I had a similar situation in my own residence just 6 weeks ago, and I was basically told that, we don't have the authority to, tell people what to do with their property, other than how far from the property lines we can put the building. So let me just reiterate, I really think one of our purposes that we should get to those engineering standards and require that somebody have to do an engineering review and a final grade inspection. It's not done. These people.
WRC doesn't do it?
No, they don't do it, no. And the township doesn't do it. And the plan review process, there's, in the village, there's literally a cursory review of the grading and drainage situation. I can take you to a dozen sites in the last 2 years, and I personally know. And now in the township, the plans are reviewed by the township engineer, and they certify them, and then they require an as-built grade certificate. Here in the village, they go through demonstration of this process, but it's not done. It's not done. Is it beneficial for builders? Yes, it gives them a lot of flexibility. Good builders take advantage of this in order to make the sites better. Less experienced builders or homeowners inadvertently take advantage of this to wreck their neighbors' lives. So once again, I think that's, I know we're a small village, but we're going to continue to have a huge amount of building here. I mean, every day there's another, and it's just going to get worse. So, other than that, the weather's great. It stopped raining. It's good to see you guys. Oh, also, our missing member said something about serious contractions and being 8 days past due, and asked for us to excuse Nick Smith. Asked to be excused from the meeting tonight on that basis.
Thank you. Commissioner Arch?
This is just food. I'm not past due. I just wanted to put it on the record. It's just way too much food, in case anybody's looking. No, I appreciate everybody, and I love the fact that when you have somebody comes in that doesn't ask for anything or setbacks, there may be some adjustments they're going to make and request those within the constraints of the ordinances. But as Mike said, I think everybody on Flint Street is going to like the fact that single family and not 6-unit. And I really appreciate when you have somebody come in and says, we're going to work with you, and you know what, we're listening. And let's change that up. It's going to change their ROI, not ours. And so when they do that, it's commendable, and I just want to put that on the record. Other than that, thank you.
I received my packet on Thursday night. I think that's normal business. I had questions about the packet, about the information in the packet, and one of the things that I noticed as I tried to get those questions answered, the packet didn't include email addresses. It didn't include phone numbers for the folks that were providing that information. It's very difficult to try and get questions answered when you don't know how to contact people. The village offices are closed on Friday, which doesn't help that situation, okay? So I spent a good part of my time, both Friday and today, trying to reach folks. I did end up getting a hold of Wendy Spence, but I tried others also and was unsuccessful in getting a hold of them. So I'm not sure what we can do about that, but I think if I'm going to be able to do this job the way I'd like to do it, I need to be able to get questions answered. I need there needs to be a way to get a hold of folks to ask your questions and get them answered. I know you can do that here, but some of the folks that I tried to get a hold of aren't here tonight, and I don't know that this is the best forum for trying to get two-way exchange to get questions answered. So I don't know what we can do about that. Maybe we can get a list that has the planners, the village attorney, the village engineer, that sort of thing, that's got real email addresses that folks actually respond to, telephone numbers other than the main switchboard at some firm where you get to a voicemail, leave a message, and then wait. So I don't know if that's possible, but that would be very helpful to me. The other thing that I noticed in the packet this week, there were references to, and this was specifically on the Flint and Lake Street, there were references to corrections requested from the first review, and then there were also references to comments 8 through 11 of the first review, but the first review was not included here. Nor was a meeting date or anything that I could have used to go get that information. If I had a meeting date, if I had some reference that I could have gone to the meeting minutes of a village council meeting or previous planning committee, would have given me some avenue to help myself. Okay? I did end up getting that from Wendy Spence, which generated other questions, so she and I went back and forth. But I think if we're going to have something that's put in the package that references previous materials or previous discussions, it would be very helpful to have some reference to know where do I go get that information. Because the way I'm going to approach this is when I read the packet, I'm going to try and go back and understand what happened, right? It's not in my nature to just take it for granted and assume that review 1 is, because this doesn't tell me what happened in review 1. It just tells me that comments first review were dealt with minor deviations or exceptions. Well, that's inadequate for me. So I don't know what we can do. I don't know if we can beef up the process or something, but I just fear this is going to be a problem going forward for me.
I can feel the eye contact, Mr. Gandalaitis. Yes, if I may, Chair, just interject here. Yes, the packet certainly should have included that review number 1. That was my oversight, not forwarding that full material package to the clerk. I do want to say though, any review letter that we have usually has the consultant's contact information on the letterhead. And so, you know, if any time you need to, you know, reach out to those consultants, please, you know, just double check the review letters. And of course, I did forward your request to Wendy on Friday, and it might have taken her a couple of days to get to you, but we can certainly work on improving the process, and you know, I'll work a little more closely and a little harder with our clerk and our manager to make sure that everyone has all the information they need.
I'm just saying, so, you know, this letter from Wendy doesn't give a phone number, doesn't give an email address. You know, I went online, looked at Nowak and Frous Engineers and called their main switchboard and filled up a little form online, you know, I'd like to get a hold of so-and-so, please, before Monday night's commissioners meeting. But that's not very efficient.
I hear that concern though.
And quite honestly, an email address is not very efficient either, typically. Not if you need 24-hour turnaround. You really need a phone number, and not a main switchboard that goes to a voicemail.
Understood.
Thank you.
Hank?
I think we need to come up with some, and I don't know what it should be, but when I look at the Orion Boathouse, I think they've done a nice job of making a good restaurant there that seems to be, have a lot of traffic. But their use of the lake, which didn't go through us at all, and had no input from the village that I know of. And the way they put it up, I'm surprised the guy that's next to him isn't, well, I'm sure he probably is screened, because he likes to. But I think with other properties going up on the water, we should have a clear understanding of what they're gonna put out there as docks. And then the last thing is they still got a light that shines in the neighbor's house. And I know you know about it. Good.
Thank you. Nick? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm good, thanks.
Thanks. I was thinking of what I was going to say.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I want to agree with Commissioner Dandelides about making sure that we've got all of the information in our packet. If the engineers or any of our other consultants reference previous reviews, those need to be included. However, I don't believe it's appropriate for planning commissioners to be individually contacting consultants. The purpose of these meetings is for us to ask questions of staff when we have questions about the reviews that have been done. And it's important that we do it that way, because all of us should be privy to the questions and the conversations that take place. They shouldn't be happening individually. Perhaps we need to have the engineer at our meetings when we have reports from the engineer, so that the engineer can answer questions. We need to take a look at that and perhaps revise that process to make sure the engineer is present. But we can't have 9 commissioners contacting consultants, asking questions, taking their time, running up consultant fees that either have to be borne by the village or they're charged back to the applicants. That can be extremely costly and unnecessary when those consultants can be at the meetings. I do agree, we need to make sure our commissioners get their questions answered. But those are discussions we need to make together, not individually. I did want to bring the commission up to speed on a few things that are happening. First of all, McKenna has submitted a proposal to us for the Master Plan Strategic Action Plan. You had discussed this previously and asked that monies be included in this new fiscal year budget to complete that project. The council included an appropriation for that project. And the village council will be considering McKenna's proposal on Monday to award the contract for that work. If the council does approve that, then the planning commission will be able to move forward with starting work on that strategic action plan. The Downtown Development Authority bonds were issued and closed on June 29th. The Downtown Development Authority will be moving forward with its work on the lumberyard redevelopment project. There's still a lot of pieces that need to come together, including, I think, the DDA coming to a final agreement with the property owners on the sale price for the property, but also the DDA continuing its work on the proposed plans for that property. So it's a work in progress, a lot of things that need to be done, but an exciting project that is moving forward. The village council on Monday will be discussing short-term rentals. The zoning code currently prohibits short-term rentals anywhere within the community. That may be illegal under state law. You cannot have exclusionary zoning. So we do need to have conversations on where short-term rentals may be an appropriate land use. The council will be discussing it on Monday. At this point, my recommendation to the council is that they at least consider the downtown center district and refer the matter to the planning commission for further discussion and study on that. So we'll see what happens with the village council on Monday on that. That is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Lamb, you were asking for Commissioner Smith to be excused, right? And so I think that should be granted. Our next, I don't have any other comments other than I'm happy to see Moseri moving forward with the projects. And hopefully they deliver on everything that they've said. We've got our fingers crossed. I believe they will, but we'll see.
You know, it's not a comment, but during the discussion, it was brought up, someone else brought it up the other day about the village's offices are closed on Fridays. All the packets come out on Thursdays. Even the council people, Darwin has been gracious enough to answer some emails and phone calls on the off days, even Sunday. But maybe we should consider asking them to generate our packages.
On
Since we only get
Wednesday?
monthly on Wednesday, maybe to give an extra day so they can come to the office. That might, especially for us, it's going to meet once our packets aren't quite a disaster that some of the other groups. So that would be.
I will definitely work with the clerk and with our planner to try to make that happen for the commission.
That'd be great. Thank you. Next meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 7th, which I will not be here. I have work commitment.
And Mr. Chairman, I will not be here as well. I'm going to be out of the country during that time, so.
We'll say travels. With that, move to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.